Hey everyone, welcome to Third Eye and Truth. This is a space for clarity, intuition, and grounded truth, where we slow down enough to hear what's real beneath the noise. This season has been asking me to slow down and really listen, not just to what's happening in the world, but to who needs guidance the most right now. This episode is spoken with the younger generation in mind, but it's not separate from the rest of us. It's connected to anyone who grew up trying to make sense of chaos, who learned discernment through experience, and who knows how confusing it can feel to find solid ground when everything else around you feels unstable. If you're older and listening, this is an invitation to remember, to hear these words the way you once needed to hear them too. And if you're young and listening, know this space was created for you intentionally, because clarity, faith, and truth aren't about age. There comes a moment when the world doesn't feel the same anymore. The things you once scrolled past start to feel louder. The stories you were given don't sit the way they used to. Not because you suddenly changed, but because something inside you started paying attention. If you felt that quiet shift, where you notice more and speak less, where you question things instead of automatically accepting them, you're not alone. Awareness doesn't arrive with noise. It doesn't crash in or demand attention. It shows up as a pause, a question, a feeling that something doesn't fully add up. The world moves fast on purpose. Speed keeps people from stopping long enough to notice what they're being pulled toward. And the moment you slow down, even just for a minute, clarity begins to form. A lot of what surrounds you today is built on distraction, the endless content, the constant comparison, a focus on image, status, and appearance. When your attention is pulled outward all the time, there's very little space left to understand who you actually are on the inside. Systems of power, government, media, and influence work best when people don't question what they're being told. When your emotions are minimized, when thinking deeply is labeled as being too much. But questioning doesn't make you difficult, and it doesn't make you rebellious. It makes you aware. There's been a push to make emotions seem weak, to act like feeling deeply is something to grow out of. But the truth is, your emotions are part of your intelligence. They help you sense when something is aligned and when something isn't. Spiritually speaking, that awareness isn't random. It's part of how you're guided. When people talk about a veil, they're not talking about something dramatic or mystical in a movie sense. They're talking about the space between what you're told to believe and what you feel deep down is real. The veil forms when curiosity is discouraged, when truth is oversimplified, and when people are taught to focus only on the surface of life instead of its meaning. Lifting the veil isn't about rejecting the world or being angry at it. It's about seeing it clearly while still staying grounded. You were born with an inner knowing, a quiet sense that recognizes truth without needing proof or approval. Over time, the world teaches you to second guess that voice. But that voice hasn't disappeared. It's just been drowned out. Faith in a higher power isn't about turning your mind off or blindly following something. It's about trusting that truth exists beyond control, beyond distraction, and beyond fear. God doesn't want you numb. God doesn't want you disconnected from your emotions or your intuition. God wants you to know you are seen, valued, and deeply loved. You are not invisible, and you are not here by accident. As awareness grows, it's important to stay grounded, not reactive, not angry, and not consumed by everything you're starting to notice. Grounding means planting your feet in your beliefs, trusting your faith, and knowing you're supported even when you don't have all the answers yet. You don't need to wake everyone up. You don't need to explain yourself to people who aren't ready to listen. Growth like this happens quietly. If you've been feeling different lately, less interested in distractions, more aware of what feels real, then trust that. You don't have to rush the process, and you don't have to label it. Truth doesn't announce itself loudly. It reveals itself when you start listening inward instead of chasing noise. The veil doesn't disappear all at once. It lifts in layers as your awareness becomes stronger than the distraction. Stay grounded, stay connected to your faith, and most importantly, stay honest with yourself. You were not created to move through this world asleep to your own awareness. You were created to see clearly, to think freely, and to grow with intention. And as your understanding deepens, remember this: you're always guided, protected, and you're never walking this path alone. Thanks for listening, and I'll catch you next time.